Good morning, everybody. This is Brian Blacker at PolicyMap. So for anybody who is unfamiliar with PolicyMap, we are a nationwide online mapping and data platform. Consists of over 37,000 indicators from public and proprietary data sources, all available in an easy-to-use mapping and reporting tool. So our data covers topics such as demographics, income and poverty, housing, jobs, education, health, and other areas. So our data comes from a lot of sources, from federal agencies, federal government agencies, and federal data sources like the Census American Community Survey, HUD, IRS, CDC, Health Resources and Services Administration, Bureau of Labor Statistics, just to kind of name a few. And then we also do have some proprietary data sources that that we license and make available through our platform. So things like residential and business vacancy from a source called the Lassus List, school performance data from great schools. We work with, as far as kind of our subscribers and who we tend to work with, we work with a number of federal, state, and local government agencies, nonprofit organizations, banks and community development financial institutions, as well as a number of universities. We've been working with the city of Dallas this year to build an enterprise-wide site license that's available to all staff across city of Dallas agencies. The site integrates a number of local Dallas data sets alongside all the data that's already available in the PolicyMap platform. So essentially creating a one-stop shop for easy mapping and data visualization. So some of the things that you'll be able to do with this tool include making maps fast that will combine PolicyMap data on things like demographics with local Dallas data on topics such as zoning, permits, 311 service requests, and police incidents. You can also generate area profiles for local boundaries like council districts and service areas, or your own custom study area. And you'll be able to easily access aggregated or download data for local boundaries like council districts. So some of those are things that we'll be talking about during the training today. So for the training, we're going to start with an overview of some basic functionality, navigation, where you can find some of the data in the tool. Then we'll talk about making maps, how you can interact with data layers and data points, kind of the two types of data, generally the two types of data that are available in the tool, and the different outputs that you can produce from the Dallas PolicyMap site. And then after that, we'll talk about creating tables and reports for local boundaries and custom drawn study areas or custom regions. And then I'll wrap up by pointing out a couple resources for some of the functionality that we're not going to be able to cover today. I'm going to just jump over from just sort of the main PolicyMap landing page over to the Dallas PolicyMap site, and everybody should be seeing basically just a map of the city of the Dallas area. So the URL or the web address for the Dallas PolicyMap site is dallas.policymap.com. And so that URL, this is a fully web-based tool, so it's accessible from any computer with internet access. So when you enter in that URL into any web browser, you'll be redirected to log in with your Active Directory credentials. So it should be the same as what you use to access other city applications. So hopefully that should be a familiar process. After you enter in your email address and your password through the Active Directory portal, then you will be brought back to this maps page, and this is the screen that you'll see. It'll just be kind of default zoomed in to City of Dallas, and it'll be the map that you're currently seeing on my screen. So I always like to point out some of the support resources that are available. If you, when you're logged into the site, you'll see over in the top right corner, there's this little question mark icon, which will get you to the PolicyMap support page. So when you click on this, you'll see we have a number of guides and resources on all the different features and functionality of the tool. We have some quick start videos, short, brief training video gallery, and then we do have just like a support phone number and email address that you can use if you're running into any questions, as you're using the tool. Those are some good resources. So those are some of the things that you can kind of come back to after the webinar today, in addition to having the recording of this webinar. So in terms of just some general navigation notes on the site, so you can pan around on the map by just holding your mouse down, kind of just pulling the map from side to side. You can use this zoom bar in the right-hand corner of the maps window to zoom in and out to different areas around Dallas. You can also just use the scroll wheel on your mouse to also do the same thing. So hopefully that should be fairly familiar if you've kind of used any kind of web-based mapping tool. You should, it's going to be pretty similar to kind of navigating around on Google Maps. So one of the main pieces of functionality that you'll see throughout this tool is going to be this set location bar. So it's going to be this location bar up above the top of the maps window. So the set location bar allows you to zoom to an area on the map, so you can enter in a specific address. You could also enter in a city or a zip code, and it'll zoom to that area on the map. So, for example, if I were to enter in the location of one of the Dallas city offices, it will zoom me into that particular address. You can also, if you clear out the address, you can also use this to enter in something like a zip code. So if I enter in an example of a zip code in the Dallas area, you'll see the results that get returned. And once you select one of them, it'll zoom to that area of the map and show you that zip code area. So this set location bar also has a number of built-in local boundaries, so things like council districts, Dallas service areas, and police sectors. So you can access them if you select this location button. You can select, you'll see that this is actually a drop-down where you can, see there's council districts, city limits, service areas, police sectors. We also have things like, census tract block group if you had like a specific census tract ID you wanted to zoom to, or you could go to congressional districts and some other kind of just built-in boundaries here. But let's say we wanted to, for example, see, let's zoom to the, the 4th council district, select the council district, and then once you select one of those, it'll take you over to the 4th council district for the city of Dallas. And you'll see kind of this functionality of being able to set that location is going to be pretty handy for things like generating reports, downloading data, and things like that later on. So the data in PolicyMap is organized into these data menus across the top of the screen. So I'm going to come back to the Dallas data tab. But so the data that's part of the PolicyMap platform is going to be available in these gray menu items from demographics all the way over to analytics. So since we have a lot of almost 150, between 150 and 200 data sources available in PolicyMap as part of our platform, we group all of our data by theme rather than by source to make it easier to find things that you're looking for. So when you click on these menus, you'll see, what different indicators are available, what type of data is available. So obviously under demographics, you're going to see a lot of population, indicators related to population, race and ethnicity, age groupings. And as you navigate through these, you'll see, if you hover over race, this will kind of branch out to a sub menu that shows you the more, specific race classifications that are available as data layers on the map. Similarly, if you hover over the age, you'll see the different age indicators, different age buckets that are available through that menu item. So the demographics is obviously going to be a lot of data that's coming from the Census and Census American Community Survey. Incomes and spending, we'll have kind of a mix of some census data as well as data from IRS. Housing is going to have data from, HUD, some other data that we license. So I won't necessarily go through all of these menus to talk about all the different data that's in here, but it is something that I would encourage everyone to do, as you're exploring the tool, to kind of spend some time just navigating through the menus to see, the different data that is available. So I had mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I will kind of draw the distinction between generally the two types of data that are available in PolicyMap, and that's going to be data layers and data points. So I'll load an example of a data layer, which I'll just use families in poverty, and just kind of load the general kind of indicator for all families in poverty. And let me just zoom out a little bit on the map. So a data layer is going to appear like this. So it's going to show shading on the map to show a concentration of an indicator, in this case, the percent of families in poverty. Obviously, the darker purple areas are going to be where there's a higher kind of concentration of families in poverty, or where that percent of families in poverty is higher. The lighter areas are going to be where the percent of families in poverty is lower. So this is going to be an example of a data layer, and then the other type of data in PolicyMap is a data point. So I'll load an example from the housing menu and use the HUD multifamily property. So this is going to be subsidized, federally subsidized housing locations. You'll see these show up as these small orange diamonds on the map. So a data point is going to be showing an actual address level data and displaying it as a point location on the map. And you could click on an individual point to see the details and the attributes of that. So when you have data on the map, you can easily just kind of remove it and clean your map off by using up in the legends for the data points and the data layers. You'll see there's an X next to each of those items. You can click on the X to remove the points. Similarly, do the same thing for the data layers. There's also in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, there's a reset map button. The reset map will allow you to just kind of clear your map off, clear any location that you may have set, and just default you back to kind of that main screen. So in addition to kind of just, navigating through these data menus, where all of our data is maintained, you can also use this data search box, which will allow you to search by keyword to find a particular data layer or data point. So for example, if you were to search by keyword Hispanic, then you'll see some search results, and once you select one of these search results, it will display that data on the map. So I'll just use kind of this estimated percent of all people that are Hispanic. Once I select that option, that data layer will now be displayed on the map. So let me clear that off. And so now I'll come back to the Dallas data tab. So the Dallas data tab is where all of the local data sets that we've loaded for the city of Dallas are available. So this is obviously data that's only going to be available through this this Dallas specific enterprise site. So we've loaded almost a little under 50 data sets so far into the Dallas data tab. So if you click on the Dallas data tab, you'll see kind of how the menu is organized for the Dallas data that's been loaded so far. So as far as data layers that have been loaded, we've loaded base zoning districts, land use, as well as the Dallas market value analysis. We have the market type data layer, which kind of just shows the different real estate markets throughout the city, and then also some of the underlying indicators that went into that market value analysis. So I'll load the base zoning layer just to kind of show an example of one of the data layers that's been loaded so far for Dallas. So this obviously is going to be a different type of data from that one we were just looking at of percent of families in poverty. This is showing kind of more the zoning, base zoning district categories over here in the legend that correspond to the colors on the map. And then as far as kind of the majority, I would say, of the data that's been loaded for Dallas so far is going to be kind of more in the category of data points and then polygon overlays. So we have a number of overlays in here, related to zoning overlays and subdistricts, like historic overlays, neighborhood stabilization overlays, PD and CD subdistricts. We've loaded building permits and certificates of occupancy available under this development activity. land bank lots. Under infrastructure, we've loaded some infrastructure data related to bond projects, light rail, street conditions, adopted area plans, 311 requests, police incidents. And so we're going to show some examples of these data sets, all just for the purposes of showing sort of this a polygon overlay, since it's going to be a little bit different from point data. I'll zoom in and you can see this is a historic overlay, which is going to be these green kind of polygons that are overlaid on top of the base zoning districts. So in addition to the data that's available from demographics to analytics and under the Dallas data tab, we also have a lot of just kind of boundary overlays available under the map boundaries menu, which is going to be at the kind of below the map window in this menu that says map boundaries. And when you expand this, you'll see different options that you can overlay. So we have a number of kind of just national boundaries available, some of the standard census boundaries around like, county and city boundaries. We have zip codes that you can overlay or census tract boundaries. And then we've also, we have a lot of the Dallas local boundaries. You wouldn't see as much as I see under my own login here, but we have, the Dallas city limits, council districts, police sectors, service areas, police beats. So, if I, for example, if I load the Dallas council districts on the map, you'll see them as these the heavy black boundaries showing, where the different council district boundaries are. So I'll go ahead and reset the map just to bring me back to the default view. So now I'm going to get into kind of transition into, making a map and some of the things you can do once you have a data layer, data point on the map, and some of the outputs you can produce as far as printing maps and sharing and downloading data. So for this example, I'm going to look at an example data layer related to home values, and then load on a Dallas data set for building permit locations. So the home values data layer, I'm going to select from the housing menu, and under home values, I'm going to select this layer for median value. So this is going to show median home value in the Dallas area. And so this one is going to be a little bit different from the indicator of percent of families in poverty. This is showing a dollar variable. So the darker purple areas are where median home values have, are a higher dollar amount, lighter areas where they're a lower dollar amount. So anytime you have a data layer displayed on PolicyMap, you're going to see at the top above the maps window, you're going to see a map title telling you, what indicator, what layer you're looking at. In this case, the estimated median value of an owner-occupied home between 2013 and 17. You can click on that to see a more detailed description of that specific layer. And then you'll see here, there's a link to take you to our data directory to see more information about the source of this data. So over in the legend, you'll see where, it'll mention the source. This is coming from the census. So this will also link to our data directory over here where it lists the source. Or if you click on the link from the description, it will take you over to the data directory and direct you to that source. And you can read kind of more about the source, see some of the links about kind of more information. This will also talk about, any kind of relevant information related to how we process the data. So when you have a data layer on the map, you can also modify some things over here in the legend. You'll see there's a series of drop downs and you can kind of change some of these options to alter what you're seeing on the map. So you can select this year dropdown. It's going to default to show you the latest time frame of data that's available, so that right now it's showing the latest Census American Community Survey 5-year range, which is 2013 to 2017. But if you select this dropdown, you can go back to previous time frames by selecting them from that dropdown, and this will kind of take you back to that same indicator for a previous time frame and just kind of dynamically change what you're seeing on the map. From this variable dropdown, you'll see right now we're looking at a dollar variable. This is median value. So you can also, this is, all of these things are going to depend on, the specific layer that you're looking at, but a lot of our data layers, you're going to have the ability to change different variables. So, from here, you'll see we also have percent change, a couple of percent change indicators, one that's looking at change over the last 5 years, one that's looking at change since 2000. So if you were to select one of these options, it will change what you're seeing on the map now, and now we're looking at a percent change variable for this same indicator, median home value. So now the purple areas are where, areas in Dallas where median home value has appreciated, and then, the yellow and orange areas being where median value has decreased. And then you'll see when you have a data layer on the map that there's this shaded by dropdown. So this will tell you, this is going to kind of just by default, based off of how close you're zoomed in, it's going to set this to a particular boundary. So it's just telling you, at what geography or what boundary the data on the map is shaded by. So right now it's shading this by census tract area. If I zoom out a little bit, it's going to start to, change, and now it's shading it at zip code area. If I zoom in on the map, eventually once I get close enough, it's going to shade at the block group area, which will be, for the most part, is going to be for data layers, the kind of the smallest geographic unit at which the data is available. So you can also, change this from the dropdown if you want to move away from the default, and you're maybe at this zoom level and you want to shade this at, the zip code area rather than the census tract area. You can also just change that from the dropdown. And then you can also change a couple of other just options. You can change the colors that are being displayed on the map. So if you wanted to change the color ramp on a data layer from something that's, the default purple to maybe a blue color ramp, you can select that option, click on apply. Now it'll shade, use blue shading on the map. And then there's also the ability to edit and kind of make some adjustments on the ranges of how the data layer is being displayed. And the ranges is referring to, basically these 5 buckets that the areas shaded on the map are being kind of allocated to. So if you select this ranges dropdown, you can change the number of ranges. If you wanted to just sort of see one or, just 2 or 3 ranges, you could just select a number of ranges. You can also kind of edit your upper and lower bounds on individual ranges. So let's say, for example, we wanted to look at, kind of have the top 2 ranges be 250,000 to 500,000. And then the very top range be 500,000 and above. You can make those adjustments, click on apply, and once you do that, what you're seeing on the map will, be updated to correspond to those changes that you made to the ranges. So then, in addition, so this is all kind of talking about, how you can change, visually what your map looks like. But if you select a specific area on the map, you'll actually see, the value of that indicator for that area that you selected. So I just kind of selected this area in Northeast Dallas that had a very high median home value. It'll show me for that specific census tract that I clicked on what the median value is for that tract, and then it will also show me some benchmarks for the city of Dallas, the county, the metro area, so that you can easily kind of talk about and draw some conclusions about how this local area compares to some of the areas in which it's situated. So then that's a lot of the things you can do as far as kind of interacting with data layers. If you're I'll load an example data point on the map for the Dallas building permits and kind of talk about some of the things you can do with the point data. So that's going to be under the Dallas data tab, under development activity. You can load on master permits. So this is going to be a data set with a lot of data in it because it's really showing you all the permits issued in this data set. This is, I think, at least 3 years of data. So this is one where you're really going to need to use the filtering options to be able to kind of narrow down what you're looking at. But when you have any points displayed on the map, I had previewed this quickly, but if you click on an individual point, you can see the attributes for that specific point that you're clicking on, and all these attributes are gonna, depend on the specific data set that you're looking at. So we do have the ability in PolicyMap to filter your points to kind of limit what you're seeing on the map. So right in the legend, the point legend, you'll see a button that says filter points, and then you'll see, and this is again something that will vary depending on the specific data set, but you can filter to see, for example, just permits that were issued in 2018. That will limit the points on the map to just 2018 issued permits. And then you could also say, only show me new construction permits issued for new construction in 2018. And so now we're, looking at fewer points. And if we kind of zoom out, now you can, start to, draw some conclusions, start to tell your story, once you've got your points, your data layer on the map. And then when you do have data points, a data layer on the map, let's say, for example, we come back to this area that we had selected before with this high median home value. We see there's a number of, new construction permits in here. And if you wanted to see quickly, a snapshot of what those, what permits were issued there, once you've clicked on that area, you'll see there's this link to see a list of the permits. And then in here, you can kind of scroll through to see all those permits that were issued. You can also download this as an Excel. So once you have, added your data points, added your data layers, and you're ready to kind of produce some sort of output from the tool, there's a few different things you can do. So you can save a map to a workspace and kind of come back to it later, or just kind of have it for the next time you might need it. You can print a map, so export a PDF or an image. You can also kind of share interactive maps with others, or you can download the data out of the tool and kind of work with it outside of PolicyMap. So I'm going to go through quickly those different options. So if you wanted to save a map, up in the top right corner is where you're going to kind of find all of these kind of actions that you're able to execute. So you'll see there's a little save icon. So if I wanted to save this particular map view, and this will kind of save, what data point you're on, what your zoom level is, any boundaries that you may have had, what your layer is, so that you can easily kind of bring it back up later. So you click on the save icon, it'll bring up this My Saved Work. You can give this, it'll default to just whatever your data layer is on the map, but you can change the name here, and then click on save. And then you can get back to that saved work folder by clicking on the folder icon just to the right of the save icon. And this will bring up that My Saved Work. And then in here, it'll show you any of the maps that you had saved previously, as well as, tables, reports, custom regions, just kind of other things that you may be doing in PolicyMap. You can save them into this, this kind of workspace that's associated with your login. And then you can create projects within the My Saved Work feature. So if you, for example, are doing some sort of analysis, you want to kind of save a couple of maps, maybe a table, a report, you can save that stuff into a single project. So you can create a new project clicking on the plus icon. You can give it a name, and then you can start to kind of drag items into that project folder directly from the different buckets here. So if I wanted to drag this map that I just saved over, can bring that over here, and then maybe I want to go to the reports and then drag this report that I had generated beforehand. And then if you come into the project folder, you'll see, here's where everything is being organized. You can create subfolders and things like that. So it's kind of just this folder organization tool. So in addition to saving, you can export a PDF or an image of the map that you've just created. So that's going to be using this print icon in the top left corner. So when you click on the print icon in here, it's going to show you a print preview window. And you can kind of pan things around, change your orientation from landscape to portrait. Kind of make some other adjustments and kind of select different options as far as turning on and off different legends, selecting what your format is going to be, whether it's a PDF or a PNG, change some titles. You can zoom in, zoom out. So you can kind of just customize what your output looks like. And then once you've set your options, click on the export button, and then usually will take a minute for this to generate, and once it does, it'll come through your browser and ask you whether you want to open it up or save it. And just to show quickly an example of what one of these would look like, this kind of just shows you a similar map, and this is a PDF format, and then this is something you could save locally. If it's a image file, then you can easily incorporate that like into a Word document, report, PowerPoint, something like that. So then you can also save, you can also share an interactive map with a colleague who may also have access to the Dallas PolicyMap site. So this is the PDF that I generated just a second ago from the site. So if I click on this share icon to the, which is going to be situated right here in the middle, you can quickly get a link. So this will just be a link to this map view that you currently have that you can share with somebody. As it shows here, the recipient does have to be able to access the enterprise license, so it wouldn't necessarily be something you could share with a outside agency or outside stakeholder. You can also email through PolicyMap. So put in an email address, and then your recipient will get a system generated email with a link to open up. So those are probably the two most relevant. You can also do embedded, maps for any kind of e-newsletters or, blogs or anything like that. Social media sharing links are also an option. And then finally, you can download the data out of PolicyMap. So when you click on, this is going to be this downward arrow here to download data. If I click on that option, you'll see you can download the layer that's on the map, which would be our median home value layer. You can download the points with with any filtering applied, or you can download your points with layer data attached, which would be like if you wanted to download all of the permits in an area and then have associated with those points, stamp it with the median value of owner-occupied houses, based off of like the block group or the census tract where that's located. So you can basically just select your option, click on next, and then here you can enter in a location you want to download this data for. So this is where, if you click on this add predefined location, this is where you can, if you wanted to just download some data for, a council district, then you can just select a council district. And then from this dropdown, say, whether you want census tract level data or block group level or zip code area, and it will, your export will include, all census tracts within the second council district. Click on next, and this just kind of confirms your download. And then you would go ahead and click this button to download the CSV. So the data comes out as CSV files, which you can open up in Excel, and I'll just quickly show a couple of quick examples here. So, this is going to be an example of a layer download. So this is going to be census tracts in this example. In the location at the bottom, it shows this is census tracts in the 4th council district. Tells you a little bit about the source. Here's the census tract IDs, and then here is the indicator for median value. So, something like this is something you could easily, if you're working in some sort of desktop mapping application, you can, easily kind of, join based off of these census tract IDs to a shapefile. And then an example of a point download. This is going to be kind of what your permit download would look like, kind of has all the attributes for all the permits. And this is also If I scroll all the way to the bottom, I can see, you know, again, I would use the 4th district in this example, you know, what filters were applied, and I'll get the latitude and longitude coordinates, all the attributes. So if I wanted to, again, incorporate this in some desktop mapping tool, I could do that. So I'm going to transition now to how you can generate some area profiles, access data for local boundaries or custom regions. So this is something that, you know, may be helpful for those of you that need to occasionally pull some information and data for council districts or service areas or some other kind of custom kind of geography or study area. So I'm going to be going through both the tables functionality, which is going to be up at the very top of the screen, just to the right of the maps tab, as well as the reports, and kind of talk a little bit about the different things you can do with those two things. So if I click on the tables tab, it'll take me to the tables page. So tables allow you to generate, you know, just sort of like some quick aggregations of counts on an indicator for several different boundaries. So let's say you wanted to see an estimate of jobs in a few different council districts. When you come over to the tables page, you know, you first basically have to add an indicator and then, you know, start adding in some locations. So I'm going to go to under the economy menu. I'm going to be selecting a jobs indicator and show, you know, basically just all jobs in all industries based off of, you know, place of employment. And so I now have my indicator added, but I'm not really seeing anything in the table because I need to start adding in some locations. So if I go back to my set location bar, select the drop down and go to council districts. Let's add the first council district. And once I've added in one location, now I'll see in the table, you know, it's showing me this estimated count of jobs in the first council district, showing me that's 23,000, a little over 23,000. The first district, it'll say it's, you know, showing this number based off of 20 census tracts, and you can click on this link to see the values for the individual census tracts that, you know, it's determined are within that district boundary. You can also do some quick kind of change over time across years by over here on the left-hand side in the legend, clicking this checkbox to see across years. When you select that option, this will show you, you know, that same indicator number of jobs in the first district from 2010 to 2015, and you kind of just a basic trend chart showing that over time. So you can then also add some other areas to your table. So if you wanted to add, you know, the second district and the third district, you can add those additional council districts here, and you'll start to see, you know, it'll build this, you know, simple bar chart to show the comparison of that indicator for those 3 different council districts. You can also do the kind of across year change over time for multiple locations at the same time, just to kind of show again the change over time for those 3 council district areas. And then, you know, let's say we wanted to change, you know, this from, you know, this was a jobs estimate. Let's say we wanted to change this to look at something like youth population in these council districts. We can then change our indicator to change what the table's populated with. So if we select under the demographics menu and let's go to population age and less than 18. And we'll need to change our variable over in the legend to the number to be able to get an aggregated count. And once you've done that, then now you'll see what we're seeing in the table is estimates for number of people under the age of 18 in each of these council districts. So when you create one of these tables, you can, you know, print this as a PDF. You can also save it to your saved work. So The other option for kind of just getting a lot of information for a single location, like a council district, would be using one of the standard reports that are available in PolicyMap. So if I jump over from the Tables tab now to the next tab, which is going to be the Reports, you'll see there's 4 standard reports that are available in PolicyMap. There's a community profile, which has kind of all of your demographic, population, housing, income, workforce indicators available in a single report. We also have a community health report, rental housing report, and a mortgage report. So community profile tends to be probably the most used of those 4 standard reports at this point. So basically, the report will allow you to, quickly get a number of indicators, summary level data for one of your, selected locations. So if I select my report type, community profile, and then use this set location bar here to go back to my 4th council district, it'll preview your location. You can click on generate the report, and it'll start to kind of pull together the information and pull together the data for that council district. So it'll show you the area, quick kind of view, tell you what area, census tracts, zip codes it touches, and then you'll start to see some data populated. So in a lot of cases, it will show you, your the data or the summary level information for your selected location, as well as kind of show how that compares relative to the county or the state that it's in. So you'll see, population numbers, race, ethnicity, and so you can quickly kind of do some comparisons here and see that in the 4th council district, this is an area which has a much higher African American population, 50% almost, compared to the state. If you kind of keep scrolling down, you can look at age breakdowns, income. So again, showing income buckets in the 4th council district relative to the county and state. So you can say, this 4th council district has almost 45% of the population has an annual income less than 25,000, compared to only 20% for the county and 21% for the state. So this is kind of how you can really quickly just kind of get all this information for a set location. So there's, if I kind of keep scrolling through here, housing type related to different housing types, tenure, vacancy information for residential and business vacancy, some employment by industry. So, it's just I think probably the quickest way to get a lot of summary information for an area. So when you generate one of these reports, you can save it up in the top right corner, save to a workspace, print it as a PDF. So you can also, in addition to, accessing that type of information for, a council district or service areas, or, one of the other boundaries that's just kind of already available in PolicyMap, you can also create your own custom region for generating reports or downloading data, or populating tables. So this is going to be using custom regions in PolicyMap. So in order to create a new custom region from the maps page, you would use this purple button below the map window that says create. Once you click on that, there's 3 options for creating a new custom region. You can draw on the map to literally just kind of connect the dots to create an area. You could assemble a couple of census tracts or zip codes. You could also do a radius around a point on the map. So if you wanted to see like a 2-mile radius around an address, you would use that one. So I'm going to use this drawn custom region. And once you've selected drawn custom region, you just start clicking on the map, and you'll start to see, the points for the different vertices that you're going to be using to create this area. So you can kind of follow the street grid or, just kind of whatever makes the most sense. I'm going to use for this example the loop area of Central Business District to create this region. And basically, you just want to make sure you connect the dots. And once you do that, it'll fill in the area, and then you can give it a name, a description if you want, save it. And once you've saved it, it'll be available in this My Saved Custom Regions menu. So there's the loop custom region that I just created. If you click on the little custom region icon, you can change the color if you want. So now I'm using kind of this pink color. You can fill it in, you can change transparency. So there's some visual things you can do with it. And then as far as some functionality, if this is something that would be helpful for others, you can share a custom region, with a specific individual or for all, users who have access to the Dallas site. And then you can use the custom region to do, to get a report. So if you click on this get report link from the custom region that you've selected, it'll bring you right back to this reports page. And then you could generate, one of these standard reports for that custom drawn region, and it will kind of pull together that same information into a community profile report just for, areas that fall within, that region that you've put together. You can also download data. So for just areas or just, points or, areas that fall within your region. So let's say, for example, I wanted to download, 311 requests that were within the loop area. You could add the 311 data point. This is defaulted to show 2019 data. Maybe I want to just show Public Works 311 requests, and so I can see, the points on here, but if I wanted to quickly get a download of this, you can click on the region and download this data using that download data link. And on the next, once you've kind of, or on this screen where you set the location, you would use the default custom region and then confirm your download. And it'll just come out again as a CSV, and then you would have basically a listing of, just Public Works 311 requests in 2019 that were within the loop custom region. And then, similarly, if I jump back to the tables page, I can also, from that custom region bubble, click on See Table, and it's going to show me, in this case, it's showing me the number of 311 points in each council district as well as my custom region. But I can also, reload one of my indicators like the population under 18, and similar to how it showed me the aggregations for the council districts, I can also get similar aggregations for a custom area. So it's showing me the population under 18 in the loop custom region is 506, and it's including 6 block groups in that aggregation. So one of the notes on the aggregations, it's going to include census boundaries or more than 50% of that underlying block group or tract, whatever it's aggregating, is included within that area. So that's just an important detail to be aware of. And then, so finally, we're getting towards the end of the hour, and I do want to answer some of these questions that we've gotten. So, we've talked about maps, tables, reports. The couple of features that we're not really going to talk about are the 3-layer maps and the data loader. So just conceptually, to talk about these things, 3-layer maps will allow you to add up to 3 data layers, and then change criteria to limit what you're seeing on the map. So that would be if you wanted to kind of see where there's, for example, areas with high median home values and that have also experienced high population change or something like that, and you wanted to kind of layer those 2 things, you could do that using 3-layer maps. And then the data loaders is a self-service geocoder where you can take a spreadsheet of addresses, upload it through the data loader to be displayed as points on the map, and then you can, you know, share those with others that you've uploaded. You can, you know, download them, you know, points. So basically you can kind of do all the same things you can do with other point data once you've loaded them in through the data loader. So on our support page, we do have some good resources for the data loader. For 3-layer maps, it'll kind of just go through examples of you know, creating a 3-layer map using the data loader. So just wanted to highlight a couple of those resources since we didn't really have time to go through those things. The data loader can handle up to 10,000 addresses in a single upload. 50 fields can be included. So there's a lot that it can handle. And once you've uploaded data through the data loader, you'll see it under the Dallas data tab in this far right-hand corner, and it'll show up in these this column that says data loaded by me or by other users. So, so that pretty much concludes kind of the actual demonstration portion. So let me address some of these questions. There was a question about fire department data, whether that will be included. At this point, we have not gotten any fire department data. We have some, you know, police department data, but we have not gotten any kind of fire department data to be included into the site. We are kind of building out the data directory specifically for the Dallas data, but a lot of this data comes from you know, the planning and urban design, sustainable development and construction, some housing, economic development. So that's some public works data. So that's probably, as well as police departments. That's probably, at this point, a lot of the Dallas data is coming from those sources. As far as we did get a question about how current is the data, how often does it update? So this is a good question. So I can kind of address both on the Dallas, on the kind of the PolicyMap data, kind of the data that's part of the PolicyMap platform, and also for the Dallas data. But in both cases, it really varies by source, how frequently it's updated. For the PolicyMap data, you know, some of these data sources are only updated on an annual basis, so they're getting updated annually in PolicyMap as well. So, you know, like the Census American Community Survey data is updated every December, so we, you know, push an update into PolicyMap at the same time. We do have some data like our vacancy data, some unemployment data that's updated quarterly and kind of more frequently though. But at least annually on the PolicyMap side of things. For the Dallas data, it also is going to vary by source. In terms of the actual source data, you know, each individual department kind of, you know, owns these different data sets and kind of has their own update frequency. So some of them are only annual, some of them seem to be kind of every couple of weeks, some of them are kind of constant kind of data updates. So for things like the police incidents, some of the like the 311 data, we're setting up data feeds that will kind of just on a nightly basis refresh the point data in PolicyMap to reflect the live data that's being captured by Dallas. We also have, you know, a lot of them, the other data sets are going to be updated, you know, quarterly, but you know, certain things like the land use data and things like that may be more annual updates. So it kind of varies by source, but that's kind of a quick highlight. As far as are we able to save interactive PDF maps locally? So the PDF maps will just be static. You know, as far as kind of saving interactive maps, you know, you have that ability to save into your saved work in PolicyMap and then come back to a map, or to kind of like grab one of those links to an interactive map and save that. But there's not like a PDF that's interactive, that's like a flat file that's interactive, that you would be able to save locally. As far as we got a question about how do you download data for multiple council districts. So you can use the if you wanted to kind of like put together a table with multiple council districts, that what we walked through as far as kind of adding multiple locations for a single indicator, you can do that. As far as downloading data, you would really have to do a download for each individual council district. You can download also for, basically like all census tracts in the city of Dallas as well, if you wanted to get more of like a citywide export. But if you're trying to, specifically associate or specifically get, like some sort of data, one of these data sets, for areas or points that fall within a council district, it is more of you would have to do a separate download for each of those council districts. In terms of, let me just see here. Does the address data loader include condo addresses? So it's really just going to be kind of rooftop geocoding. So if you have kind of condo addresses, they would, show essentially at the same kind of point location if they're in the same building. If they have different street addresses, then they should be shown as different points on the map. As far as uploading a custom region, we got a question about, can you upload a custom region? So if you already have some sort of, custom boundary or something like that, there's not currently any way to upload like a shapefile or a boundary into PolicyMap. You would have to, create them as custom regions, or if it's something that, could be useful, I think, across departments, then it's something that maybe worth, the considering kind of like adding as a new either boundary or a new kind of overlay in the Dallas data tab or kind of in the set location bar. So yeah, so we've been working with the planning department on kind of what data we're incorporating into the site at this point. There's a question about data, kind of similar to what we just talked about. If the data set's not currently included, is there a way to request that it be added? If it's, so yes, I think, as I mentioned, we're working with the planning department. So it would be kind of, I guess, through them if you wanted to make a request for maybe new data to incorporate. If it's kind of more of like a national data set that could be beneficial to be added into kind of the PolicyMap platform of data, then that's something that you can kind of just let us know about. Use our kind of the info@PolicyMap email address, or send feedback through this feedback button at the top of the screen, and kind of let us know about something like that. So I do know that there's a couple of other questions here that I can kind of follow up on. Since we're almost 5 minutes after, I want to kind of be respectful in case anybody does need to drop off. I'll follow up on some of these questions where we might be able to give, provide some responses and circulate them when we send out the link to the session recording. But at this point, I think I'm going to just wrap things up so that everybody can get to their next meeting or any other things that they need to do. So just want to say thank you to everyone for participating today and for submitting some really good questions this session. And I hope this has been helpful. As I mentioned, and just to reiterate, we'll circulate the recording to this session. There's also the support page resources I mentioned at the top. Under the question mark, in case you have other, if you want to use some of those guides as you're kind of navigating the site and using it and starting to explore it. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for participating, and I hope that this has been helpful.